the season, but nonetheless, we're going to do it. So, CB, I'm going to let you start off with your Eastern Conference playoff teams for 2014.
Before I say anything, have I actually gotten a Homer Statement of the Week yet? Like, legitimately. You get all of them.
I get all of them because my teams perform.
I could have talked about the Chicago Bulls.
Snowball had one for the Giants when they beat the Steelers. In the preseason. In the preseason, yeah. I think you've had a couple about the Mets, actually.
I think Snowball took it over, though. We had one about Jacob deGrom, and Snowball ended up taking the whole thing.
All right.
But anyway, we both agree here to start it off with Bulls and Cavs.
Oh, actually, before we start, though, I have to tell everyone, I don't know if you guys know, but CB is a Bulls fan, so when you hear how far he has the Bulls going, just remember all the bias that is involved here.
Remember the lack of bias you have with your Bulls picks as well, though. First, I have the Bulls, Cavs, Washington, Toronto, Charlotte, Atlanta, Miami, and a bit of a surpriser here. I have the Celtics at 8. Not many people are picking them, but I like the way they played against the Nets. And I think they're really a viable team for that last spot. I don't like the Knicks or the Nets at all this year, and there really isn't anyone else I would consider putting in there. So I think Rondo can lead them to the 8th playoff spot.
All right. I don't have the Celtics making the playoffs. But for the most part, we have the same teams. I have the Bulls number 1. I have the Cavs number 2. We have 3 and 4 switched. I have the Raptors number 3 and the Wizards number 4. And then after that, that's where it kind of gets mixed up. I have the Heat number 5, the Hornets number 6, the Hawks at 7, and then I think the Knicks make a late season push. And they'll end up at 8. I think the Nets will choke that away. Any major disagreements there?
I just don't think the Knicks are really a playoff team, but I agree. Neither really are the Celtics or any team that is in the bottom couple in the East. I could legitimately take the 11th best team in the West and probably put them at like
they can make it the 6th spot, yeah.
Because the first 4 teams in the East are legit. I think the Bulls, Cavs, Raptors, and Wizards are all very good teams. But when you look past that, maybe Miami might be decent, maybe Charlotte. But other than that, I don't think the East is still going to struggle this year. Getting those 1 and 2 spots are going to be very important, I think, in the East, because you get a chance to really avoid a difficult first-round matchup. Because I think the 5 and 6 in Charlotte and the Heat could provide a tough first-round matchup. I don't think they'd be able to beat either of those top 4 teams, but I think they'd be able to at least give them a good series. And if you end up playing either the Knicks or the Celtics or the Hawks, I think you should have a pretty easy road to victory in the first round.
All right. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Half the teams in the West, if they were in the, missing the playoffs in the West, if they were in the East, they'd make it. It kind of sucks, but that's how it goes. That's what you get for being geographically on the West. Sorry, Grizzlies. I know you're basically East, but whatever. So let's start you off with your West picks.
I personally think the Spurs are the best team, but I'm always hesitant to pick them as the number 1 seed, considering how Popovich doesn't really care about regular season as much as many other coaches do. For that reason, I'm going to take number 1, the Clippers. Then I'm going to go Spurs, Rockets. I think the Thunder are going to fall because of the fact that they don't have Durant or Westbrook. Then I'll go Blazers, Mavs, Suns. And a team that I really like this year, it kills me to see them at 8, considering how talented they are. But the New Orleans Pelicans, I think, could be a sleeper team this year. Might even be able to go higher than that. I think they're a really solid team. But at the 8th spot, I'm very confident with putting them there. We actually have the same teams in the playoffs in the West, which surprises me because neither of us has Golden State in there, who's a very good team. There's also some other good teams like Denver that we left out, who would probably be, for the most part, probably like a 6th seed in the West or something like that.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but I get your point.
But they would easily make the playoffs.
They would be a 7th or 8th seed, yeah. Correct.
And then there's again Memphis, who neither of us has in, who's another quality team. Marcus Gasol playing really well. Memphis could make it. Golden State could make it, but we have the same 8 teams. So let's hear your order.
Oh yeah, I just noticed that now. Now you said that Popovich doesn't really care about the regular season. I would disagree with that. I think that he just manages it in such a way.
I'm not saying he doesn't care about the regular season, but when you put it into perspective, Tom Thibodeau picking up a technical foul, up 34 in the first game of the season in the fourth quarter, I think he has a different philosophy on how he manages the regular season, and they're not going to push as hard as for the 1 seed as maybe the Bulls would in the East. So I think that that's a chance that they're the best team in the West, in my opinion, but I think there's a good chance that they won't succeed.
The Spurs are consistently the best regular season team in the West, and they don't push hard for it because they don't have to. Popovich is such a great coach. He manages the minutes just phenomenally. The times that he'll bench Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan because they don't need a win to rest them. I love that about him. Now, I don't think they'll make it as far as you have them going, but they will still have the first seed in the West, just because they're great in the regular season. Now, I was surprised you had the Blazers as low as 6. I have them as the number 2 seed this year. I think they'll have a big push. I love Lillard. I love Aldridge.
Wes Matthews is playing very well as well.
Batum, probably one of my favorite Frenchmen of all time. I think the Blazers will be great this year. The Clippers, number 3. Thunder will be 4, depending on how Durant and Westbrook come back. How they play once they get back. So that's a little flexible there.
I think they could actually fall as low as 6.
I had them 6.
I think they could fall as low as 6.
I had them at 6. But then I was looking at the timetable for Durant's return. If they don't come back, at like 90-95% of what they were at, then the Thunder could drop to 6 or 7, and that's where you get into trouble. Then at number 5, I have the Rockets. The Rockets are going to be ranked low in the playoffs, but they will go pretty far, I think. I think they can definitely upset the Thunder. I think they did. Did they do that last year or the previous year? Yeah, the Rockets will be doing good. Number 6, the Mavs. I love getting Chandler Parsons, Dirk Nowitzki, obviously. And I think Jameer Nelson will fit in pretty well with this team. They aren't going to do much once they get to the playoffs, but they will be good enough to get into the playoffs. Unfortunately, this is going to be one of their last good shots with Dirk Nowitzki getting up there in age. Jameer Nelson isn't exactly young either, but I like having Chandler Parsons there to build around after. I believe they still have Shane Larkin. I like him a lot.
Larkin was part of the Tyson Chandler trade. He's with the Knicks.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
But would you believe that I ended up with 3 Mavericks on my fantasy team? Granted, it's a 14-team league, but I have Dirk, Monte Ellis, and Jameer Nelson.
Oh yeah, Monte Ellis. I forgot about him. And I absolutely love the acquisition of Tyson Chandler. Yeah, I think the Mavs will be decent in the regular season. Won't do much once they get to the postseason. Number 7, the Pelicans. Love the Pelicans. Just too many good teams. Number 8, the Suns. I think they'll be awesome this year. Might even be running a 3-point guard system. Before we move on, we do have a caller. Who we got on the line now?
Justin?
What's up, Justin?
With you guys talking about the Thunder and everything, do you think if Westbrook and Durant, they come back at like 95% and only miss at best like, let's say 4 weeks for Westbrook and about 6 for Durant, do you think they could be at number 1?
Absolutely not number 1. I think the highest they're getting is number 4 or 5. What was that, CB?
I just think there's too many good teams in the West. Like the Clippers, Rockets, I think are going to have very good regular seasons. especially the Clippers. I think they're going to be a team that's going to really try and make a statement this regular season, and they're going to throw Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin at you. That's a very daunting task to guard all three of those, and then have to deal with three-point shooting and JJ Redick. I think it's going to be hard because for the next 4 weeks, they're really going to struggle without Westbrook and Durant. And then you get Westbrook back, and he's not going to be great right away. Without really a lot of talent right now, it's going to be a struggle for them. They're going to have to be carried by Serge Ibaka, and I think he can keep them in borderline playoff hunt until they get back, but I don't think there's any way they're going to be able to gain enough ground to get all the way up to the number 1 seed.
Yep. The Spurs are basically a lock for number 1. Clippers are going to fall somewhere in 2, 3, or 4. The Thunder are too good to miss the playoffs, but they're not good enough to get in the top 3.
Okay.
All right, thanks for the call, Justin. So now let's move on to the Final Four, CB. Who you got? Oh, and Chris Kunitz just scored another goal, by the way, if anyone was wondering. It's 4-0 Penguins.
Well, if you were wondering, the Devils have taken a 3-2 lead since we talked about
Oh,
that.
good for you. Way to go, Devils.
I like very many have Bulls and Cavs, and in the East, I don't think that there's very much that can challenge them. The Bulls look scary. I'll get into them a little bit more in a bit, but the Cavs, I think, are going to gel well. I still think the Bulls are a little bit better than them. I think the Bulls bench is going to be a revelation this year. Now, I would really, really like to see how the Bulls are going to play with their whole team together. They got Jimmy Butler back tonight, but Derrick Rose did not play with the double sprained ankles. The Bulls are up 63-49 right now at half of the Timberwolves. They also don't have Taj Gibson in this game. So I would really like to see how the team does with that full complement, because last night playing against LeBron without Jimmy Butler, your lockdown defender, makes it really difficult. They had to put Dunleavy on him for the majority of the game. I think having Rose in the second half would really help that team. I think with Rose playing, he's looked good these first 2 games. Not quite sharp with the finishes, but he's definitely looked explosive. I think having Rose, Butler, who I think is going to be much improved, and I think he's really going to make them regret the fact that they didn't pay him now. He's going to get a lot of money in this offseason, I believe, as a lockdown defender, deep, good shooter with a lot of athleticism. I think he's going to make them regret that. And then plus with still having either McDermott, Dunleavy at the 3, they're going to have some shooting there. And then they'll have Pau Gasol, Joakim Noah, and with a crazy good bench of Taj Gibson, either McDermott, Dunleavy, plus Mirotic, and then Aaron Brooks, who's looked really good. I think this is a team that's going to be the deepest in the NBA, and I think that's really going to kill teams who have weak benches. And I think the Cavs are one of those teams, so I think that's why the Bulls will get the best of them. And I think the Spurs just have the formula for winning, so I have the Spurs over the Thunder, because I think the Spurs really not lost. They didn't lose anyone really last year, and so I think with how good they looked in the playoffs last year, some of the best basketball we've ever seen, I picked them to beat the Thunder. And again, I think the Bulls are just too deep. So we'll see the Bulls and the Spurs in the finals.
All right. Yeah, I could see that happening. I really don't want the Cavs. I don't want to pick the Cavs for to be in the East Finals, but when you look at it, they're going to be going up. There's no way possible that the Hawks are going to beat the Cavs. And then after that, the Cavs will either be going up against the Raptors or the Hornets. While I love the Hornets, they're just not enough to beat the Cavs in a 7-game series. So I do have Bulls over Cavs as well. The Bulls are just a far better team. The Cavs, as talented as they are,
Raptors, Hornets. I think you looked at my 4-5. You had Wizards Heat as 4-5. Oh, my fault. You're right. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Cavs are a great, talented team. But they are overrated in the sense that it's going to take time for them to gel together with Kevin Love. It's going to be tough for the Cavs this year. But there's no one.
Have a real time matching up with Chicago's big men too, because Kevin Love is not a good defender inside.
He's not a good defender, period.
Yeah, in general, yeah.
the Cavs are just. It just so happens